Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Today, we are going to go ahead and do a continuation of the series of the reading of The End of All Evil by Jeremy Locke. So, if you have not yet checked out the previous installments of this series, there's a link below you can check out after the show where I have all of those up to. This one is going to be part 5 of this series. So I'm going to be reading from that book and giving some commentary as I go. And I hope you enjoy it. So stay tuned. All right. So welcome into the live stream, everyone. It is June 17th of 2023. And as you may notice, it's a bit of a different scenario today. Had a last minute situation come up with Bill. He's got to handle something with his dog sick. So unfortunately, I had to pivot, and so this is what I came up with. It's been a while since I've done one of these readings. So figured this would be a good time as any to go ahead and to continue on with that. So make some noise in the chat. Let me know you're here. Can you hear me okay? How are you feeling today? And as for the like button, well, you definitely know what to do with that.
Smash, smash, smash. Yeah.
That's right, Hitchhiker Kai. So here we are. We're doing this reading today, and we'll be just picking straight up from where we left off last time in part 4. Give me a second to share my screen. So, part 5. We left off. I believe we were talking about. One second. Where'd my? There it is. So we're getting into the section called Money and Greed. Let me close this thing. There we go. Let's check the chat real quick. Interesting dilemma. Can that happen in a dualistic world? It can. It absolutely can. We have to be able to distinguish the difference between potential and probability. So, is it probable? Less so, of course. I'm not naive to the fact of where people are at morally, mentally, but we can choose it at any time we decide to. That choice is always within our grasp. We just have to have the awareness and the courage to actually make that happen. And in the majority, right, not in the minority, that's not enough to create a change. So great question. Hello, Sarah. Welcome. Great to see you. Rika, hello. Yep. Again, I thought about canceling because it was very last minute and I didn't have any kind of backup plan or anything. But I hate to do that. I always really try to show up every time and deliver something to you guys. So this popped into my head and I was like, yeah, let's do that. That'll work. And gratefully, don't really require a lot of preparation for this. I'm pretty much just reading and kind of commenting what comes up intuitively. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So, money and greed. Money is good. Culture has invented the lies of money's evil so that authority can more easily lay claim to it. Authority can take your ambition for improving your life by demonizing your labors. Culture teaches people that desiring greater comforts is selfish and greedy. It teaches that money is a mysterious evil. The more money is condemned, the easier it is to steal from you. I really love that he put this in the book because this is something I see a lot of people get wrong, very, very wrong. This idea that money is the root of all evil. This is a real symptom of the gaslighting that comes largely from Christian programming, I would say. The Bible says it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. Well, That's just nonsense. Now, can money be a distraction? Absolutely. Is greed a vice that can really be problematic? Of course, yes. And this is something that should be addressed and become very mindful of. But money itself is simply a tool. We talked a lot about tools on this channel, and that we don't condemn tools. That's a childish uh, approach to take from someone that doesn't want to take responsibility for how a tool is being used. It's all on you. Just like a gun or a hammer or a car, they can be used to improve your life, or they can be used for great devastation. And the more powerful the tool, the more potential good or evil can be done with it. So it becomes even more important, the awareness, the conscience, and the conscious, or the conscious level of the individual, of the user. With things like AI, for example, or the internet or cryptocurrencies, they're more and more powerful. The atomic bomb. Um, there's a great capacity for that to go both ways. So anyway, money can really do a lot of good. And again, there's another distinction, just while we're on the topic, between Federal Reserve fiat currency, right, a fractional reserve banking system, versus actual hard sound money, which is something like Bitcoin, for example. There are others, but it is really the best form of money that we have, that has ever existed, really, because it's digitally encrypted to be have fixed economics of supply, and that can't be tampered with or manipulated or printed into oblivion. So that's an important distinction as well. Just because I'm pro money doesn't mean that I'm pro, the Federal Reserve or fractional banking or anything like that. That is a straight up Ponzi scheme, and I think it's bullshit. It's built on lies. But regardless, greed does not exist among free people. Greed is not the love of money. The love of money is only the love of a better life. Greed is the theft of money, and it exists only among tyrants. That's a really poetic distinction there. There is no end to the amount of improvement you can have in your life. There is no limit to humanity's ability to cure disease, to end hunger, and to enjoy life. Culture would have you believe that you are limited. Culture teaches that you are not worthy of achieving your dreams. There is no greed in desiring more. There is only greed in stealing the labors of another. Theft is evil. It is the nature of authority to steal. Only tyrants possess greed. That's an interesting take. Um, I think that the obsession with abundance, to the point when it's coming from a fear-based mindset of never having enough, scarcity mindset, and hoarding and things like that, is also not necessarily a good thing. Where you could argue that that's not exactly theft, but it's still not healthy, and it's not good for people as a whole. It's not holistically beneficial. It's just beneficial to you. It's a bit on the satanic mindset side of things. But I absolutely agree that there's no end to the amount of improvement you can have in your life. And though money doesn't buy everything, it buys almost everything. As far as the material means to get things done, right? You can't buy love or happiness directly itself, but it it is a means of acquiring things, and it doesn't have to be frivolous things. Just because you have money doesn't mean you're buying Rolexes and Bugattis. What if you're buying, top quality supplements to put in your body, and self development courses to learn new skills and to become a better person? That's how I choose to spend my money, and I definitely want lots more of it so that I can continue to reinvest that money back into myself and constantly grow and improve my situation. Because the way I see it, money is what I call an options multiplier. and what is the name of this game and what we're all about here but freedom. you know um, Money can certainly bring about more freedom, especially when things are so limited in the way that society is set up, and there are a lot of limitations, and everything is kind of monetized to a degree. So when you have plenty of money, there's really so many more options that you have open up to you. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. When culture teaches that working for money is greed, it also teaches that labor without money is noble. Laboring by rule of the law for the collective we is taught as the proper form of ambition. If you cannot choose to give or to keep, then you are not we, you are a slave. This is also another great point because think about it. Think about the kind of boomer philosophy, right? The work hard, but yet you don't, like if you want a lot of money, you're greedy, like you're a humble person that just, has what he needs and provides for his family and this kind of thing. Like that is the perfect mindset of a slave, of like seeing hard work and just copious amounts of labor as a virtue, yet like being being poor, or at least just living barely above your means, is a virtue as well. Like there's an imbalance there between those two things. Like I think the more you work, the more you should be compensated, especially if your work is valuable, and the more valuable work, obviously, the more you should be paid, and not all work is equal. But just as a basic general principle, yeah, that there's something wrong with that typical mindset. Suit of law. Law is a weapon. Authority establishes itself as the only means of defense. Because of this, people have no recourse against the law. What's up, OD? OD, how you doing, man? Great to see you. I like said it weird because I was stopping myself short of saying Odysseus. Good to see you, man. Because of this, people have no recourse against the law. Law is designed to enslave all who obey it. There are many people who are able to use the law to extort. Lawyers and thieves regularly band together in democracies to loot the valuables of people. It is commonplace to fear behaviors and speech because they will be used as a pretense for extortion. The idea of law that licenses extortion is liability. This idea teaches that one man is responsible for the failures of another. It is commonly accepted as a noble principle of justice. It is not justice, it is a lie. Liability is not a principle. The principles need no enforcement. Exactly. The reason liability laws are enforced is to extract massive sums of money for anyone who happens to be able to pay. Liability teaches that you have a responsibility under law to prevent the failures of others, and it's done with this very virtue signaling kind of approach as well, of just like, oh, well, you just must not care about people, right? You just want to see them fail. No, you don't want to see them fail, but if they do fail, that's on them. And natural law is the greatest teacher. The best way to prevent failure is to let them feel the sting of that, and then maybe they won't make poor choices again in the future. I lost my place. In a free world, people's actions are their own, and their failures bring consequences. Those consequences of principle are necessary to the growth and understanding of humanity. Law twists the consequences and assigns liability by fiat. Law confounds our understanding of true principles with obfuscation. This is done to enslave and extort. Collectivism. Now, here's a good one. Culture teaches the worthiness of the common good employed by force. It teaches that it is acceptable to issue law to advance a collective ideal. Whether to pay for a project or control behavior, compulsion is frequently labeled public interest. Trying to get this page to change. I don't know why. Damn. There we go. It's like stuck on it. If these things are truly for the benefit of people, why must they be forced in order to accomplish them? Remember the difference between principle and law. Principle requires no enforcement. No law is required in order for people to feed and shelter themselves. If something must be done by force in order to accomplish it, then it is not a good thing. It is only something that authority wants. All government, all violence, and all laws are methods of forcing you to yield money or motive without your permission. If these were things that truly provided benefit to you, then you would do them willingly. In a free market, you get only that which you pay for. In government, you can easily get anything you want at the expense of others. Those who have the most to take are the easiest to rob. Culture uses the ideas such as the working class and the rich. These ideas have no meaning since all classes work, and even the poor of today are rich compared to the rest of history. These ideas are just tools of cultural manipulation. If culture can create social classes and convince you that they are at war, then it can hide its own tyranny. Culture creates collectivism with individual crushing labels such as we and our. People are taught, oh, we the people. There you go. Perfect example. Angela, great to see you. Welcome. The big secret that humans cannot create laws. Exactly. We can discover laws and we can say them out loud, but we can't make them up. This has been kind of a theme that I've been really pondering lately, that people don't really make anything at all, actually. Everything comes from nature, and we simply, aggregate or replicate things. But more on that. I'm kind of working on that. Maybe I'll make some content on it. Culture uses ideas. Oh, we already did that. People are taught that within a nation, they are our children rather than the parents. Culture teaches that we want laws and taxation and that we fight wars. Right. We kicked their butts back in World War II. Who's we? You weren't even born yet, bro. The destruction of the individual in collectivism directly serves the purpose of evil. Collectivism teaches that good things can come from compulsion. It teaches that people can be forced to accomplish things for their own good. It pirates the love people have for their neighbors and twists it into authorities' demands. Slavery is the result. If an individual will not choose a thing, then it is not good for him. Force crushes the human spirit. Choice enables life. Love it. Morality and values. Get this stupid thing out of here. Evil is not found in the stupidity of man. Evil is found in the slavery of man. Law impersonates morality. Culture teaches the ultimate infallibility of law in order to compel obedience. Even when law is wrong, culture teaches that the moral thing to do is obey. Law presumes to enforce prudence on people by calling it morality. This is the ultimate deceit. Morality is freedom. Law destroys freedom and calls it morality. Freedom is the cure for imprudence. All the social ills that law presumes to correct exist because people are not free to learn and grow. With limited ability for growth, principles are confused with, and foolish behavior is the frequent result. Freedom brings wisdom, peace, and prosperity. The history of freedom shows this clearly. Yeah, it's like government is a crutch, and by continuing to use the crutch, you're actually ensuring that your leg never fully heals, and only by putting some pressure on it and learning to walk on your own will you be able to break free of that handicap and basically realized, well, you never needed that crutch. In fact, it was actually holding you back. It was weakening you. Force and compulsion destroy the value of human beings and dissolve the will of the spirit. Evil steals the sovereignty you have over your own life. Nothing righteous can come from the destruction of freedom. Sanity. Culture teaches that only nuts and crazies challenge authority. Law is the holiest and most sacred emblem of culture. Insanity is not an inability to perceive reality, it is a willing rejection of reality in favor of the artificial constructs of tyranny. Law threatens violence upon all who refuse to obey it. When you choose to act upon an artificial view of reality, you are insane. People obey law out of fear of death until they can be properly cultured to accept the rule of law without question. Cultural indoctrination is insanity. The definition of insanity is blind obedience. It is insane to believe that those in power over people rightfully belong there. Absolutely right. It is insane to assume that they will always be there. It is insane to believe that law has the right to command the obedience of people. The culture of royalty, the culture of patriotism, and the culture of law are all insanity. One second, I forgot to share this to my page. So give me just one second. No human being who understands the fullness of their own worth would ever accept the notion that someone ought to rule over them. It is the function of culture to blind the eyes of people to their own worth and to deafen their ears to any speech that may teach them. When cultural influence is at its peak, insanity ravages the mind. Obedience is the object of authority, and authority wants no possibility of rebellion. The definition of insanity is blind obedience. I'm going to share this out real quick to my personal page, see if that can help get the views up a little bit. All right. Defense of freedom. How's everyone liking this so far? Hopefully this is thought-provoking, gives you something to ponder on. Very, very crucial information for every human being to consider the nature of freedom and kind of second guessing the way society is set up. It's definitely not in our best interests. It's really a scam to benefit those at the top. Culture teaches that only police have the right to defend. It teaches that only authority has the right to decide if you are worthy of defense and what level of defense it will provide. While it teaches that it is never acceptable for you to defend yourself, culture teaches that when the law implements kidnapping and murder to enforce its authority, it is always acceptable. In order to remove all thought of people fighting their masters, culture teaches that revolt is never acceptable. Rebellion without violence is almost always impossible. Culture ensures that authority holds a monopoly on violence, and it has no compunction about kidnapping, imprisonment, and murder. The only way to escape authority is to destroy all tyranny. This is the reason massive wars have been necessary to destroy entrenched tyrants, such as Adolf Hitler. And we're taught this from a very young age as well, right? In school, if you get in a fight, they always ask, it does, or, when you say he started it, and they say it doesn't matter who started it, you're both in trouble. Simply for, if you're defending yourself or whatever, that's just nonsense. And it's literally teaching, like, to just comply and just to go along with bullies, which sets you up for later accepting the same type of abuse from the state. Culture controls speech to stop authority from being questioned. It creates ideas of propriety to hide its own tyranny. The only remaining element is to make sure that if someone does discover their own worth, that they cannot extricate authority from their lives. This is done by making the defense of freedom immoral. And in how few people actually consider the fact that that's what this country was based upon, was literally crazies and nuts violently fighting back against police, basically, more or less. And now that's such a abhorrent and shocking and just kind of idea now. People shudder at the thought of it. The price of freedom is blood. The reason for this is simple. Evil does not care if you live or die. So true. It will kill you before it yields control over your life to you. Hundreds of millions have died in history's wars, proving this principle. Every instance of a thug maiming, raping, or killing an innocent person proves this principle. While the vast majority of people are not evil, there are powerful tyrants who will never yield. They are men who will scorch the earth in order to gain or maintain authority. The only way to end tyranny is to destroy every tyrant. The more that tyrants are allowed to work the devices of culture upon people, the harder tyranny is to extricate, and the more lives it will cost to do so. This is the reason that culture teaches that the only proper way for you to defend yourself against law is to obey the law, right? Take it to court, you know? Don't be difficult. The teaching preserves tyranny. 100 million people have died at the hands of communists because so few were willing to ignore the law and instead do what was right. Europe was nearly obliterated because so many people valued the law more than liberty. They failed to stop Hitler while he was still weak. Removing the true nature of violence from news and relegating its understanding to the artificial violence of entertainment teaches people that there is safety in slavery. News reports enable authority when the true cost of tyranny is removed from view. Culture hides the plainest images of blood from people in order to keep them passive. In reality, evil will stop at nothing to control you, including destroying everything you have and everyone you love. Violence is used in the preservation of tyranny every day. Violence and murder are only weapons of immorality when used to destroy freedom. The defense of freedom is never immoral. Any man who will wield the weapons of violence against innocent people in order to gain authority must be destroyed. Chapter 5. Tactics. There is no such thing as anarchy. There is only tyranny. Just as a aside, the author of this book seems to be misusing the word anarchy to mean chaos, unfortunately, even though he understands the principles of freedom, he's got his words a little bit mixed up, but that's okay. Just to clarify, all cultures teach the nobility of authority. All pretend to defend the security of people against enemies who would do harm. The common thread amongst every authority in history is the universal enemy of anarchy or chaos. I should just say chaos in place of that because that's kind of confusing. While cultures have added racism, economy, terrorism, nationalism, and countless other enemies to the mix, chaos exists as the enemy of every culture. There is no such thing as chaos. You will never kill your neighbor in the absence of police. You are not evil. Those who wish this type of control and violence over others teach you that you are not worthy of ruling yourself. They teach you that you lack intelligence, self-control, and value. They teach that only government can rule you. The word government means tyranny. It exists to establish ownership over you. You need no governing. You are a human being, and as such, have infinite worth. You and you alone rightfully control your actions, your speech, and your labor. All who seek these things of you must receive your permission first. All who do not are evil. It's very, very true. Chaos is a lie. It is created by tyrants to deceive you. There is no such thing as chaos, only tyranny. And it's stuck again. There we go. Royalty. From the earliest days of man, there have been those who looked around them and saw others as tools to be used. Instead of building themselves up in wisdom and understanding, where infinite prosperity is possible, they designed on the laziness of theft and control. In primitive form, these are men who would use superior physical strength and the threat of violence to cower people. The demands they make were simple: money. The stronger men could live off the work of others. Might makes right, so to speak. That's the mindset. The success of such men is measured in modern culture's terms for them. Some are thugs and brutes, others barbarians and bandits. Because of their limited success and unending brutality, such evil rarely held people in bondage for long. Revolts and power struggles were common. It was extremely difficult for a person to maintain his grip of extortion over people. As history progressed, men of significantly more cunning devised the element of control necessary to stabilize power over people. This element is culture. Instead of extortion and brutality, they created the notions of rightful rule and royalty. Their objective was to preclude the people from revolt by teaching them that their authority was legitimate. This is the singular objective of all culture. Yes, this is what social engineering essentially is: normalizing mindsets and essentially domestication, too. For thousands of years, the culture of royalty enslaved all of humanity under the names chief, king, and emperor. All titles of nobility were designed to reinforce the image of familial loyalty. People who are naturally respectful and deferent towards their families were taught that royalty was the greater family. The king was, in all cultures, viewed as something between a father and a god, or a godfather. Yeah, I mean, it's the ultimate proxy parent psychologically. That is it's filling in the hole of your cosmic abandonment, because we feel kind of abandoned and without true guidance in this world. That's why people cling to things like the Bible or government, because it gives them a sense of, oh, control over them, like they're safe, like a child. Basically, mommy and daddy, they have this. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to be responsible for myself. This idolatry of the family is the cornerstone of reality. Royalty. Sorry. People were taught that to obey nobility was the greater form of respecting their father and mother. Culture's objective was to twist the understanding of people so that they believed that extortionists held a rightful place in their lives. The result was that people rarely fought back. Every aspect of the culture of royalty taught people concepts such as nobility, loyalty, duty, and honor. Each of these ideas are lies. They are designed to teach people that their worth is less than the worth of the king. Without the trappings of culture, he would simply be a thug taking food and labor at the point of a sword. With it, he is His Majesty the King. All culture is a lie designed specifically to keep the powerful in power. History of freedom. As the era of kings was closing, cultures began to disintegrate and freedom grew. This was precipitated by two very specific and very powerful attacks against royalty: the Magna Carta and the Declaration of Independence. Every time are attacked, people begin to learn more about their value. When rebellion spread among people of astounding courage, culture lost its grip, and people were able to see that there was no king who had claim upon them. They started to see a glimpse of their own worth. The engineers of evil understood that the world had finally learned how to see past the culture of royalty. With the astonishing speed of only a few generations, they engineered the culture of nations to replace it. Under the umbrella of nationality, people are slaves to borders more than at any time in history. The power of my king has been replaced by the culturally superior our country. Nations have caused greater death and slavery than any degree of royalty ever envisioned. The history of freedom shows that even as nations grow strong, the cultural lessons from royalty have been learned. Freedom progresses around the world as population increases. Cultures are destroyed by freedom routinely, and the lessons of each new tactic of deceit are being learned around the world. The violence of nations increases as the cries of freedom are raised. Hundreds of millions have been murdered and billions enslaved in recent history, all in futile attempts by evil men to stay in power. As the stability of their empires is challenged, they rain blood upon the heads of their protectorates. The history of freedom shows that such violence is not the growth of evil, but its death. Violence and the enforcement of law are necessary only when culture's grip fails to effectively control the minds of people. The deaths of kings, the transitions of nations, the mutations of culture, and the violence of governments are evidence of the end of evil. Authorities of all kinds are struggling for breath in a world that is learning how to drown them forever. In the world you and I occupy, the war is already won. We have only to watch evil die. I would say there there's some caveat to this that he does make it sound a little bit passive, like this is just something that's happening. I do believe that it's a little bit more of a active participation involved in this process. You know, it's not something we can just sit back and watch happen as a spectator. Um, it's true in some ways. People are becoming more awake. Freedom is spreading in certain degrees. However, the enslaved seem to only be becoming more and more enslaved. So I don't think it's either. I don't see it as one sided that one thing over the other is happening. I think both are happening at the same time, and eventually something's got to give. That's kind of how I see it. It's another dialectic. If you have selective vision and you just are seeing what you want to see, then that's what you're going to see. You have confirmation bias, but it's going to take a lot more than just kind of watching history unfold. We need to be pulling our own weight, and trying to help other people understand these fundamental truths. The basics really are quite simple, to be honest with you. Don't steal. That's really what it comes down to. If we can get those things in place, everything else will just follow that as a natural byproduct. Once we remove tyranny and evil, at least reduce it to a negligible amount in the world, because most people are living in alignment with moral truth, uh, we're so much more free and enabled to evolve spiritually. It is because of the control system that is, again, keeping us stunted in our growth, keeping us disempowered and stuck in our learned helplessness. That is the main thing that is preventing us from moving forward. So once that's out of the way and we're living sans slavery in the aggregate, there's so much more freedom to learn and grow and develop ourselves, and we will naturally develop more of that affluence of all the other things that I talk about on this channel, for example, the spiritual philosophy and such. The most important thing is morality, because without freedom, nothing else is really possible. So that's why I focus so much. That's the fundamental principle. Principle means that which comes first. So it has to come first, or if it doesn't, it's not your principle at all. So that's kind of why I'm doing this series, for example, because I think that the information in this book is quite profound, but it's also explained in a very simple way, so it's easy to share with people and let them hear the information in a way that they're more likely to just click with. It's a child could understand this. So I talk a lot about different things on this channel, but this this material right here is essentially the crux of it all, because if we don't have that, none of it matters. So that's I think that's where I'll wrap it up today. I'm just doing 10 pages per episode, so this will end up being a 10 video series. This was part 5. And so if you have some comments, drop them below. If you're watching the replay, let me know down below you're watching the replay. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to share right now, and I can comment on that. And if not, then I'll go ahead and wrap it up. So again, appreciate you bearing with me. I know today was kind of a impromptu. It's a little something different, but at least I was able to show up and deliver something, instead of just taking the easy path and saying, screw it, I'll just skip today or whatever. I'm going to be missing a few weeks coming up here soon anyways, once I ship out for my new job. So definitely doing my best to deliver while I'm still here. And I've got quite a few really great interviews and content queued up, pre-recorded, that I'm going to have scheduled and posting. So there's lots of content still that I'll be able to give you guys while I'm handling business. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that's it. I appreciate you tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Appreciate you all for being here and for watching. And do like the video if you would, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Make sure you click that bell so you always get notified when I go live or post new episodes. So with that, everyone, I love you all very much. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. But until next time, be empowered, inspired, and encouraged.